And we have two very special guests. Returning to the show is Zoso,
Hi, what's up?
and for the first time, Crush.
Hi.
Hello. Okay, so to kick off the show, for the New England Spring Circuit just started this weekend with a double hitter on Saturday with the workshop and the largest ever Mass Madness. And I think that the standings are already out for that. I believe Mafia is way out in the lead with like a bajillion points or whatever. So what do you guys think of that? Like, who do you think are the most likely to win each state? What do you think, Thea?
Most likely to win each state. Well, so I guess first we should explain how the circuit works, right? So it's basically like you go to an event, and depending on how well you get, you get some points. So if you get first, you get like half the points. It's similar to like payout scales in terms of how they spread the points out, and it's also like based on how many entrants there are. So if you basically like the percentage of the pot you would have won in money is like the percentage of the circuit points you'd get, kind of, but not exactly. But that's a good way of thinking about it. So yeah, if you get lots of circuit points and they can add from any event, you get to go to this Smash Summit event. That's not quite as cool because we're not like super huge, but it'll be pretty fun. That's basically it. So it encourages going to lots of events and being good, which are probably good things to encourage. So I don't know who's going to win Maine. Oh, Doswell's going to win Maine. I don't know who's going to win Vermont.
Thorn.
No, Thorn's gonna win Maine.
Thorn's gonna win, man.
Oh,
Right?
Thorn is in Maine.
Doswell almost never enters Maine.
I forgot Thorn existed. Well,
That's
Yeah.
It's an easy thing to forget because he's the only man who doesn't have Facebook in 2016.
Yeah, but he has like surrogates, right? Like every once in a
He
while,
also has a brother.
you'll
Yeah.
see
No, he
someone post.
He doesn't have surrogates.
You'll see people post in like New England Melee, and they're like, "I need to know this thing for Thorn," and then 12 people answer, and then Thorn
Right.
probably got his information.
Yeah, he has like avenues of information, but he doesn't ever actually go on Facebook. He doesn't have a Twitter either.
No, he uses like real. He doesn't pretend to be other people. He just uses other people.
He does have a Twitter. It's TH0RN and then like 4 sets of 69.
Twitter's pretty good.
Does he follow you on Twitter?
I don't think he follows anyone, and he has like maybe 3 followers.
Okay. I'm gonna try to look him up now. Did anybody tweet out the stream?
You should, Zoso.
Okay.
Isn't Crush the professional Twitter monster?
Yeah, well, I think we should have Crush do it because he has the followers by like 1 trillion miles.
Yeah. Ken's following you, right?
More followers than the last Dope Peach.
Yes. So I think one of the big sticky points of the spring circuit is the apparently if you win and qualify for the spring circuit, you get invited to a beach house.
Yeah.
Or they're talking about that. They haven't hammered out the details yet, but it's like some sort of weekend getaway with all your favorite people. So yeah, in close
but also
quarters.
your worst enemies.
Yes.
But what is it like? So is it going to be like a round robin to determine who goes?
It's gonna be pools for 4 pools of 4 for the 16 people that make it out, and then it's gonna be an 8-person bracket for the top 2 from each pool.
Gotcha.
I think they're trying to stream the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like the summit.
So anyway, so this circuit, I don't know. If I was running a circuit, I would make it like way more boring and just make it like this ELO system. So just any tournament that qualifies gets put into this ELO feeder, and then you just go in by ELO rating. But that doesn't encourage everyone to go to tons of events.
I think we should have everybody just fight, just like throw hands
in real life,
and whoever survives gets to go to Cali.
But then that would be
permanently
unfair because Hart would win, right? Like
That's
Hart
true.
would just
Hart would win by a lot.
I think that'd be pretty fair.
Hart would just beat everyone up. Like, okay,
I'm totally fine with Hart winning because he's like my favorite player, but yeah, he would definitely hurt some people.
One of my favorite questions is how many average smashers could Hart take on in a fight? Like just like if you lock them into a beach house. I think it's
I
5.
wonder what he thinks. 5?
Yeah, 5
I
is
don't
like
know.
a lot. I
5
don't
is a
know.
lot of
Maybe like
people to
4.
fight at one time.
Yeah.
I don't think he's good at fighting multiple opponents at once in melee or in
Hard
real
to really
life.
be good at that. Like anybody who actually knows how to fight is probably just gonna run if they're ever in that situation.
Yeah, that's true. But like if he was locked into a house, I think he could take at least 3, right? Like what's your average smasher look like, right? It's like somewhere between me and Theo.
Yeah. I mean, there's a chance they'll be massive, which, like, it's not going to be muscle, but that means there can be, like, a threat anyway.
If you have like enough raw mass,
Yeah, then it's, like, hard to
Yeah.
deal with them, right? Like, it'd be easy if it were 1v1, but if they're just a distraction, like, that's
it's like trying to 3v1 scrubs with friendly fire off.
Yeah, so it's, like, still pretty hard.
Except friendly fire would be on.
It'd be like trying to 3v1, like,
Okay,
3
we need to
peaches
move on to a new
potions.
topic. This is getting ridiculous.
Well, okay, so the circuit, right? I think the system is kind of broken because it encourages going to tons of, like, just going to a ton of events. And basically, if not all the top players travel, you can get in as a worse player just by attending more events. As long as you're, like, kind of competent and can place in the points.
I mean, that's okay. You know, like there's really nothing wrong with that because we're not doing it as a purely merit-based thing. It's based on who goes to stuff. You know,
I think it's good to like encourage people to go to more tournaments, but it kind of, I don't know exactly how the points work, but if it's making it so you can get like be a lot worse, like significantly worse than the actual skill levels of the best players and get in by going to like 4 or 5 tournaments a week, I don't even think that benefits necessarily the person who's like traveling to all these different tournaments. But I feel like people are going to do it anyway.
So I think
I can think of maybe 3 or 4 people who I think might actually do that, but I don't know. We'll see. I mean, like I said, I think it's fine if that happens, but sorry. I interrupted.
So I think the real issue is we don't want a situation where KDJ shows up to 2 tournaments, wins both of them, and it's like, oh look, I qualified, right?
Why
Like,
not? That would
I
be
mean-
awesome.
The thing is, like, I think everyone agrees at this point that we have some people in Massachusetts that never show up to anything but are just way better than everyone else, just because, you know, whatever. And I think
Well, that's
that
just
rewarding
like KDJ and Thorn.
participation. Yeah, I mean, it is KDJ and Thorn, and maybe.
And I
Garth.
think, I don't know, if they went to like 4 tournaments with, then I think they kind of like deserve to be in anyway. But I don't know.
I mean, if they, yeah.
Well, that was like
But if they got enough
MLG,
points to
right? Where like at MLG, PP literally just won like 1 tournament and then qualified for MLG. But it was a pretty big one.
Okay, I will say this. I think somebody like Thorn, like if we're using him as the example, he doesn't really participate in the scene outside of going to like Mass Madness sometimes, and he went to like Bust. Like he'll go to bigger stuff. And I mean, he's an excellent player. I hate to say it, but he's pretty much there for money a lot of the time. He's there like as an investment, you know, but I don't know. I think if he goes to like 2 Mass Madnesses and like say he wins one maybe, which he hasn't happened in a while, I guess, and gets like second at another one, I don't think he deserves it as much as like, you know, say like Theo goes to Mass Madness and gets like 5th at, you know, 5 of them and gets, you know, 3rd or 2nd at one of them. I would say Theo deserves it more because I know that he's putting the work in. He's going to go to tournaments elsewhere and he's going to be actively trying to participate.
It's also like a lot easier for me though, right? Because I live in the Boston Center.
Yeah, well, that's a separate issue. You know,
Okay.
like saturation of tournaments is another thing that we should
Well,
probably.
that's fine that
we should
because you're
probably be conscious
participating
of.
for the Massachusetts Cup, so to speak, and Thorn is participating for the main cup.
Yeah. So Thorn will probably qualify like no matter what. Unless like Zoller goes to all the tournaments and Thorn only goes to like 1. But that's probably the only way Thorn wouldn't qualify.
Even then, with that distribution, I looked at the point spread, and it's like you get, I think, twice as much as the tier below you.
Yeah,
So it's,
first gets
like,
a lot, and also it goes up like exponentially with size. So like at the 100-person tournament, I think is like like it's like 3 times bigger than a 50-person tournament in terms
On
of
that,
points.
yeah, and on that subject, largest mass madness of all time this past weekend.
Yeah, which was crazy.
164.
164? Are you kidding? I didn't know it was
No,
that big.
That is the number. It was
God.
insane. I was at the venue and like I just hung out near the arcades. I just did not want to be anywhere near.
Yeah,
like there were
sure.
just so many people playing games. It was insane. That was completely nuts. I'm like amazed that the bracket ran at all. Like it didn't run on time, but it did get
It
completed.
ended like before midnight though. That's impressive.
That's pretty
Yeah.
impressive, yeah.
And the crazy thing is, pro bracket didn't start till like 9, right? Like 9:30, and then it was just super efficient.
But
after
then it
that.
was that New Game Plus experience, right, where they're used to running these 64-person brackets, and they actually had TVs.
Yes. So, Jack, who are your picks to win each state? For
whoever's the best in Vermont, Thorn, probably Swift Base in Connecticut. I
Connecticut
guess
gets
Mafia.
2.
Oh, Connecticut
Yeah.
gets 2. Okay, Swift Base, and then whoever enters the most.
Well,
I
it'll
don't
be
know if
Slox,
Slox-
Well, Zoso,
Well-
you're in Connecticut, right? So
Yeah, I guess I'm in Connecticut. That's another thing I was
but
gonna
you have to
say.
show up to things, so
Well,
that's
I went to a tournament last night. I'm planning to come out to stuff more.
Okay.
But, like, me and Swift and Slox, like, I think most people would agree at this point that me and Anthony is probably the best in New England, and I'm probably second. And then Swift is like, I mean, I would argue Swift for third, even though he doesn't have the best results in region. But the point being that, like, me and Anthony are top 2, and Swift is like top 5, and we're all in Connecticut.
But
Yeah,
whoever doesn't get in from among those is probably going to qualify on points in because 4 additional players. Is it 4 or 6?
It's 8 from each way, I think. Yeah.
Okay, so there's a couple of additional players that get to qualify on points outside of, like, beyond their state.
Or
So
maybe it
just
was
as an added
6,
bonus.
because there's 6 states in New England.
But anyways, I expect all 3 of those people to qualify for sure. And then Kevin M, I think we all agree is going to be the candidate from Rhode Island. I can't
think of anybody else who it would be.
Because he does go to everything.
I don't know. Joe is not really that kind of player.
Yeah.
Like, he likes melee, but I mean, actually, there's a guy from Rhode Island, Terminal Bay.
Terminal Bay is pretty good, but he's not on the level of Kevin M yet.
No, he's not, but he's like trying harder to get better than I think Kevin is.
I think Kevin M would be the first person to agree with you on that. And then I think the hard one to call is Massachusetts, because the thing about Massachusetts is that there's so many people. Like, how good you are is absolutely not correlated with how often you show up to things, right? Like, Crush, you're a good example for that. Everyone agrees that you're like one of the top players in Mass, but I don't think I see you.
I would say he's the best player in Mass, but still loses to people for some reason. But that's another issue.
So I think yeah.
What's happening?
Are you the best in Massachusetts?
I'm like around 25th probably based on recent results.
Recent Mass Madness results.
Yeah. I think like overall, I think my results are definitely better than everyone else's. Even results for sure, and then also like the way I play the game. But we don't need to talk about that.
Yeah. So something that you've talked about in the past and wanted to talk about was playing to be good at nationals. I think that Zoso, this is something that you've mentioned in the past as well. So I think this is a good time to segue into that. You guys have talked a lot, like, I think for me and for a lot of newer players into the scene, we don't really have too much nationals experience. I know that I personally have gone to 2 Apexes, and that's it for my national experience. And the next biggest thing I went to was Bust. And those were all great tournaments, but for me, I don't have like a whole lot of difference between playing the people I know and the people I like haven't met at nationals. But you guys have always talked about how there's a ton of value in traveling and how you get so many experiences. Would you like to share a little bit about that and like why you might playing at a national might be a little bit different?
Are you asking me or Jack?
You go first.
Okay, so I think really what it just comes down to is like having perspective about how good players are. You know, because you gotta see what's out there. Because you might go to, you know, a tournament the size of Big House and sit down in a friendly setup and play like 3 or 4 different people and think like, man, all of these guys could like probably win New Game Plus, for example, or get like top 3. There's a lot of talent out there, and I thought I said Big House 5. Yeah, okay, sorry, I was just reading the chat. Yeah, like, you know, I like players in Boston and like players in New England in general, and I see that a lot of them are trying really hard, but I mean, a lot of them just aren't really there yet. So I think like anybody, for example, who's trying to maybe be like ranked this year, like if they want to be considered for the top 100, like you should be trying to win New Game Plus more often than not. You know, like just being able to show up and like go even with the people there, and maybe to more players, a greater variety of players and play styles, and you have, you know, access to talent that's like way beyond anything we have here in the Northeast. So that's basically my take on it.
I think that at least when I go to nationals, not only, well, at least for Massachusetts, not only do I get to play people way better than the people in Massachusetts, but they usually, at least when I play like the good players at big tournaments, a lot of them play like way more, and I think it has to do with like placing well at nationals. Also, play more to like figure out their opponent as opposed to like doing like combos, if that makes sense. But like, there's definitely people that just like want to do their thing, whereas I think the people that do well at big tournaments are like, because you don't know who you're gonna play at a big tournament. And I think that maybe that has to do with how like there aren't any like Marth or Fox players in the entire state of Massachusetts, and that like Peach and Ice Climbers are the most popular characters. I have more to say, but
so like people, do you think that that's a problem in New England then? Is that people are playing not?
No, I
they're
don't
not
think the
playing
character
player enough?
play matters. But I think you like people definitely, and it has to do. I think the New Game Plus being like the biggest tournament and the only kind of frequent tournament other than Mass Madness has to do with it also because it's like a tournament with all best of threes and everyone just goes every single week playing the same people. And when you're playing like one serious set against these people and not doing anything else, then it's like you don't really have a chance to figure out what they're going to do, if that makes sense. But you're still playing the same people every time trying to beat them.
Okay, you're gonna have to run that one by me again, because I didn't catch that. But like, by playing the same people over and over, wouldn't you get a better read on their habits, and like try and figure out how to beat them?
Yeah, but that people don't do that is what I'm saying.
What do you mean?
Well,
I know
okay.
that for some people, like I know that they go home immediately after they lose and they watch their videos and stuff. I guess that's not true for everyone.
It's definitely not true for everyone.
Okay, what were you saying about that, Jack?
Okay, well, so when I've been to tournaments, especially like locals in California, people are a lot more concerned with like their own improvement over whether or not they just win like, you know, any given random set at like the Foundry. And I think people like take like, I think people don't care as much about winning at smaller tournaments over there, and I think it's part of it is because they have way more better players, and because they just get a chance to play these players so much that are so good.
I think. Okay, so I've wanted to bring this up the last couple of weeks, but I just forgot. And this has come up so many times in my conversations with so many people. I think at New Game Plus in particular, I think the seeding needs to be a little less strict. Because I've talked to so many people who have complained about having to play the same people every week in bracket at New Game Plus, and as far as I'm concerned, like the top 3 or 4 players, like I don't think Mafia should be on the same side of the bracket as like Jack, depending on who's there. Jack, Crush. Like separate the like top 3 or 4 seeds, and then everything else, as far as I'm concerned, could just be like randomized. It's going to lead to some, maybe people playing people they shouldn't early, but like just to give people variety in terms of who they play. Because I feel like outside of losers bracket, from what I've seen, there's not really a ton of variety and like a ton of like new matchups happening. And I've had this conversation with so many people. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure what it would take to actually make that happen.
So, but then like New Game Plus would have less accurate results, I guess. But you're saying that's worth it.
Well, that's
for variety.
fine. I mean, that's fine. I honestly think that's perfectly okay with me.
Well, I know, like people now it's a pretty like big tournament now, so there's a decent amount of money on the line, which is part of it, and also there's circuit points. So I think people take it seriously, but it is also like our main local, so it would be useful if people could use it to learn better instead of being the 16th seed that always plays the same guy who's 17th seed every week and learning nothing.
Yeah, that's kind of what I want to try to avoid. But to go off of what Jack was talking about a second ago, I spent some time out in SoCal last, was it like fall a year and a half ago about? Yeah, because I road tripped out there with Reno because he was moving out to Long Beach. And I spent like, I think maybe 4 or 5 days out there. And I hung out with like Mike Hayes. I hung out with Tafo. He put me up for a couple of days. And like I hung out with Hugs a lot. And I played a lot of people. And the main thing that struck me is like the guys I played, I would be playing somebody who I could like 3 or 4 stock every game, but they always were like actively trying, even if it was like 100 different things. Every single person that I played out there was so invested and so interested in getting better. And I think if you look at the top players over there, first of all of them are ridiculously good. That kind of goes without saying. But they also, they're friends with each other, but they all kind of have like a little bit of a rivalry. Like they all kind of have a chip on their shoulder. If you rub your eyes a lot, you see stars. Yeah, that's true, Doom. That's true. Sorry, I'm just trying to interact with the chat a little bit. Sorry, go ahead.
There was that story that Mango said a little while ago, where like every time, I don't know if it was Mango or someone else from SoCal, but people root against their friends there, right? Like they want them to see them lose in bracket just so they can shit talk them afterwards. Yeah. And that's not true for New England, right? Like we all band together around each other.
I don't know.
I'm not sure what.
I root against my friends.
I definitely.
I root against
love
everyone.
making fun of people when they do bad.
I root against everybody except Crush.
Okay, well I support people from our community. But yeah, I guess that's true for a lot of our top players too, right? Like there's a lot of shit talking. But I think that at most nationals, people tend to have more of a camaraderie. And I guess even though they're all friends in SoCal, like beating each other is definitely first and foremost there. And do you think that's less true here?
Yes, I do. And I haven't gotten like the same kind of fire from a lot of players that I have from like the people who I really didn't know in SoCal. Like just some players who I met over there who weren't ranked, weren't really like known in a greater sense, but they just, they were really hard workers. Also, they have more talent in like a more dense area. So like, I was at Mike Hayes' place, and we played every day. He had like people who came over every day to play. Like Raffle the Luigi was there one day while I was there, and one day he was saying like, yeah, we're like Weston is going to come over later. West Balls, and he didn't end up coming over, but like Hugo came over while I was there, and this past weekend, or maybe it was the weekend before, while Anthony was staying with Mike Hayes, like Nunn was there, Hugs was there. Mike Hayes obviously has grown into like a phenomenal player in his own right, but they play so much and they're so dedicated and so like not self-conscious about like the grind or anything. You know, they all do it. They just try to get better, and a lot of them do. And I don't know. Part of it is that we don't really have the same levels of talent that they do. But I also think I don't know, like the setting at New Game Plus doesn't feel particularly competitive to me, except for like maybe a couple of players. So I don't know. I don't know if you guys agree with that.
So are you talking about like the people who get super salty when they lose? Like,
Not
do you think we
necessarily.
don't see enough of that? Because there's a lot of people who take their losing in stride and like, or whatnot, and they don't seem to be too fussed for it, and they're just there along for the ride.
I don't
And
think
just
being
stare
I don't think being salty or not has anything to do with it. You know, because you can show up and like maybe not really care about the game or ever try to get better, but still have like this little, you know, thing in your brain that tells you to win at stuff, or like makes you get mad when you lose at stuff. You know, I can think of a couple of examples of players like that around here. You know, not to name any names, but people who, you know, don't really particularly work that hard, don't really do much to produce results, but you know, they still come out and they try to win, and you know, they're annoyed when they don't get the results. So, I mean, I don't think salt is really the question here. It's more like how hard are people actually working? That's what I want to see.
Mhm.
That's kind of funny that you're saying people work harder in California, right? Because the whole
Most-
stereotype is that they're all happy and loving and then don't really practice, but they're so cool they win anyway.
I don't.
But-
Is that the stereotype? I
Well,
don't
that's at least
think
the
it is.
Mango
Never heard that.
stereotype, right? Even though that's like obviously not true.
Yeah, it's obviously not true. Yeah, the whole thing about Mango just being like a genius and never
No.
practicing is 100% not true. I'm
He
gonna
can shield
gonna
drop
put that
now.
to bed. Yeah, he
Yeah.
can.
So shield dropping's cool now.
Shield dropping was always cool.
It's
thought.
funny that you say that, because from my perspective as someone who hasn't hung out with the California crew, is that with a couple of exceptions, I'd say most of the people around the top 16 in New Game Plus are really trying to get better. And I don't know if that's... I mean, I guess you haven't been around to New Game Plus that frequently in the last couple of months, Zoso. So this
true.
may or may not have changed in the last couple of months, but I know that I think that a lot of the results have rotated. And
Yeah,
that some
we're
of,
seeing
like, some of the faces...
we're seeing some interesting developments now. You know,
Yeah, and
so
I think
it's not that those players aren't out there, but we don't have as much talent because we haven't had as much time to build it up, because we have a lot of newer players in the scene now.
Yeah, and in particular, I want to shout out Pedro, who I think
Yeah, dude.
that everyone
Pedro the
agrees is...
Fiend.
In particular, I want to shout out Theo because
Oh, cool.
I think he's good at melee.
I think so too, and I remember a couple of weeks or months ago, me and Jack agreeing that Theo's Fox looks like it was made in a third world country.
Yeah,
But it's really it's actually legitimately good now, so I can't hate on it.
Yay.
Hello.
It still has that unethical factory worker condition vibe, but he's just like really getting a lot better.
Feels like it was made by exploited people, but just maybe not in like as impoverished a country.
Yeah.
They got like an extra holiday. They got 2 days off that year.
Okay, this is the way I would put it. Theo, I think your Fox is still a little dishonest at times, but it's good.
Okay.
It's good dishonest now.
All right. One of these days I'll be able to dash consistently, and then I'll be unstoppable.
No, you won't, because that's the hardest thing in the game.
You know, that's so sad.
Dude, smash turning is so hard. Nobody understands. So we just covered like a bunch of points that we were going to touch on, and kind of one
Yeah.
fell swoop. But yeah, Cali is the best region. You know, basically the TLDRs. I think they're the best because they work the hardest. They have a favorable combination of having good players there, having a lively scene with a lot of people, but also working really hard.
Do you have any idea why it might have like turned out like that? That like
I don't know. I mean, it's like I think it's a culture thing.
okay.
Yeah, I was thinking earlier about how I was gonna write a book about globalization and its effects on people's skill in Super Smash Bros. Melee, but that's like a couple years down the road.
Because like the stereotype wouldn't really go with that, right? Because the stereotype is East Coast is no fun allowed hard worker. and West Coast is sleeps all day on the beach.
Well, yeah. The stereotype is that we play lame and they play fun and rush down. And
Yeah.
I see some pretty lame Sheiks over there on the West Coast. Though.
Yeah, and also some pretty aggressive players over here.
But you're saying
Also-
that like West Coast players were more
I think
like playing the player?
Tafikins being on the West Coast and me being on the East Coast just breaks every stereotype that you could ever make.
Well, I think a big part of it is that in California or in the West Coast, like Dave said, they play, and it's like to them the grind doesn't feel like a grind. To them, they love playing lame, so to speak, and they embrace it, and it never feels bad. And I don't know if that's true or not, but I feel like
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that they love playing lame, and I don't think they like don't think of it as a grind, because I was talking to Mike Hayes one night, and that was the exact word he used. He said he was grinding. He was just like, chain grabbing Fox on FD and like 20XX. Just doing stuff like that. It's still a grind, but it's like that's kind of what you need to do. You need to practice stuff to get better. And I think this is probably something that's come up in the past on the show, but like solo practice is, in my opinion, very underrated if you're trying to get better. And like even guys around here who have been playing for years, like old school Connecticut players, some of them, I still hear them saying that you don't need to practice on your own, and if you just play good players, you'll get better like through osmosis. And like it's just not true. It's just it's been proven time and time again that that's just not the case. This is not how it works.
with the possible exception of one Jigglypuff main, who is the biggest prodigy that Melee's ever seen. No, not you, Theo. Sorry. But like I hear that what is it? Hungrybox doesn't play at all outside of tournament. And I know that's not true for
anymore.
Oh, was it?
I don't
Is
believe
it?
anything I hear from that guy.
He's definitely like most recently he's been making this huge deal with his coach, right? And how he's actually studying videos and like practicing situations with Captain Crunch all day. So that's like obviously very focused practice. And he must have been doing some stuff before that. Maybe not quite as in depth, but
I definitely saw him play a lot. Like I stayed at OTG's place with him before a ROM, and he played friendlies with everybody.
Okay, so
Yeah.
maybe that's an urban legend, because I definitely heard that Hungrybox doesn't play as much as the other players, and he just kind of shows up and is just amazing. Because we all know that PP
Sorry, go
practices. We all know that PP and Armada, and even Mingo, even if he doesn't talk about it, practices a ton in the lab to make sure that they have all their tech down. And yeah, apparently, even if you're a Jigglypuff man, you do need to put in that practice.
Of course, like Jigglypuff is an extremely challenging character. Like extremely challenging, So that's another thing. Having easier tech skill does not fundamentally make the character easier, because in a lot of cases, like by picking Jigglypuff as opposed to Fox, basically you're trading technical challenges for
conceptual.
Conceptual stuff. And I've said that probably 100 times to different people.
I love that quote.
Yeah, like it's just.
I tell that to everyone I know.
Yeah, it's hard
Like,
to beat people with Jigglypuff. It's hard to make things happen. Like how do you hit a Fox? How do you
And you're also
consistently
signing
get edge
yourself
guards
up.
on Fox?
Yeah, you're signing yourself up to play like a billion of your worst matchup in bracket every day.
Yes, every day of your life. Imagine what that's like. Theo, do you want to speak on that at all?
So the reason I had to switch from Puff is that I was at Get on My Level 2015,
I love this story.
and I just lost to I think Rainex or someone like actually good. I was kind of sad, but I was like, okay, I can do this. Get my Puff, and I get to play Kalamazoo. I'm like, this will be free. No way he's as good as Mafia, who cheats to be super good at the matchup. But then Kalamazoo asked me what character I'm playing. Then me being the naive, stupid person I was, said Jigglypuff, and he counterpicks Fox. Strikes the Fountain of Dreams, which isn't even a good stage, but beats me anyway. And then I decided I can't play Puff anymore.
Okay, that wasn't the story I thought it was going to be, but that's a pretty good one too.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to talk about Drug Fox calling the.
That was also horrible. That was at Big House. I played half Puff and half Fox. So Get on My Level is what seeded the Jigglypuff hate.
The hatred.
And then Big House was like, man, Drug Fox is a dick. And
It's funny because he's actually not a dick, but that is a dickish thing to do.
He
you know?
was later. Well, no, I shouldn't go into petty gossip, but
No, it's okay. Please talk shit
Yeah, I
about
want to
him.
hear it.
He's my friend. I give you permission.
because
To
he was playing friendlies with like his stupid Arizona friends or whatever, where he's Georgia friends.
God, what a
And he was
jerk.
like, "Yeah, I was playing in bracket against a stupid Jigglypuff. And he tried to time me out, but and I just killed him anyway. Ha ha ha! I'm so good. He
Yeah,
sucks."
Sammy, if you're watching this, I want you to know you're a jerk.
Yeah.
A complete
And
jerk.
then, but Mem Mafia was there, and he stood up for me. So thanks, Mafia. That was
Wait, was there rising and pounding involving in this?
but he. I don't think he was talking about that during that. And okay, it wasn't even stalling because like he shine spiked to kill me, and then I was just stalling under the stage. But really, it's like a recovery attempt, right? Kind of. I don't know. I wasn't that clever.
Maybe he could sense your intent to
Yeah,
stall.
well, maybe I just grabbed the ledge for like 2 minutes before.
I mean, if it's any consolation, I played a money match with Dudusai, and he explicitly, literally did Rising Pound off the stage for like 2 entire minutes. So, you
He
know.
does that versus me in money matches.
Yeah,
also.
so I mean, it sounds like it wasn't really that bad.
You know, Squibble. I suspect that the main reason you switched off of Jigglypuff isn't because of the boredom or the counterpicking or the nonsense. Although I'm sure that has a large part of it. I think the main reason you switched off of Jigglypuff in the back of my mind is because you realized that your Smashboards post from 2015, early 2015, late 2014, was not in fact true. For those of you that haven't read this post, it is, I think, one of the magnum opuses of our recent memory. It was Jigglypuff is the best character in the game by Squibble.
Oh,
Squibble 2, I think.
yeah,
On
someone
on
else took
Smashboards.
Squirtle on Smashboards.
But on Squibble 2.
I mean, that's pretty good, but I've seen better first posts than that.
It's not even my first post.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
like-
But it goes into great detail on why Jigglypuff is the best character in the game at human level, and why if you're not playing Jigglypuff, you're terrible and deserve to lose.
Well, that-
And I think at some point you realize that that's not actually true, and Fox is indeed the best character in the game, as we've all known for the last 15 years.
Well,
And I think you can't stand to play a game where you don't have the natural advantage and can't exploit those advantages.
well, part of me
That
definitely
is
does.
what I suspect.
Yeah, part of me definitely does believe if you're not playing like an amazing character, you're just limiting yourself and your human potential. But
I mean, I agree, but there are also valid reasons for playing other characters, I think.
yeah, like not getting depressed. Those are pretty good reasons.
There you go. I mean, like, you know, look at, like, Quirb. He plays Game & Watch. And he knows things about that character that probably nobody else on the planet knows. And, you know, I think it's probably unlikely that he's going to be, like, the best player in the world going solo Game & Watch, but, you know, he does his thing. He seems like he has fun, and he gets good wins sometimes. You know, I think that's fine. But I also, at some point, kind of realized that I would have way more fun with the game if I was playing a character who can pretty much deal with everything. So that's kind of what happened to me.
Yeah, it's nice when your character just doesn't lose a character select. That is a
Well, that
bonus.
isn't literally not a thing that happens. But
Yeah, it's true.
Maybe
Although-
Icy's Peach is bad.
I
Last
mean,
time
like,
I saw-
okay, Sheik Bowser. You know, like that's yeah. If you're going Bowser against a Sheik,
You're going
you
Bowser
really-
against like anyone, really.
you can't outplay them enough.
Although Gimpy Fish got like third at like a national.
Wasn't that like
a major
2004 though?
He
Yeah,
also did
that's
get
true.
third, I don't think.
Pre-short hop laser with Falco days.
Maybe.
No, Gimpy Fish isn't that old school, but he also didn't get third at a national.
All right, don't play Bowser. Bowser's bad.
Did you guys all start playing your current mains then?
No, I started as a Falcon main.
Really?
Yes.
That explains a lot.
Well,
I
what does
played
it
in Mark.
explain?
Explains the like constant semi-hatred you have of everything.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Wow.
Well, that's an ongoing thing in my life. But
Oh, okay.
let's just leave it at that.
All right, so let's talk about upsets. So I know that this is a little fresher for some people than others, but every one of us gets upset now and then. And someone, I think it was Mafia, spoke to me recently, or said something sometime, whenever, that part of being a good player is making sure that you don't lose to players that you are considered to be better than, right? I think that's in everybody's universal description of good, right? Like, you can't be the best in the world and constantly lose to people who are like way worse than you. So like, when you feel that upset happening, and we've all been there, like during your set, where you're just kind of getting like, oh man, this person who's seated like 30 places lower than me is suddenly up 2 stocks in game 2, and I'm down again. What do you think, and how do you stop yourself from getting upset? Because we've all seen that happen, where the top player just suddenly, like last stock, just suddenly turns it on and then just reverse 3 stocks them for the win, and then the crowd goes wild. And that seems to be like more common than not. So like, what happens? Zoso, I've seen you do that actually. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
I want to hear Jack's thoughts on this one, but I'll chime in.
I wouldn't know because I like to get seeded first and then place 25th at a lot of tournaments. But I actually wouldn't know because I get nervous when I play any match. I get nervous when I play friendlies, which probably means I need to play melee more. But I don't really like clutch out matches at all, so don't talk to me about it.
I mean, so considered better than somebody and actually better than somebody are two different things. I'll say that much. And then there's the idea, if this person is beating you, what good does it do you to say I'm better than this guy? But I mean, I guess the answer to that is kind of like, if it helps you get in the zone and just be able to play your game, then that's good. I mean, I think a lot of the time, I suspect that happens either because we'll say like supposed better player in this case is not taking their opponent seriously, or because the let's say supposed worst player in this case is playing kind of like a little above their average level. They're just kind of like, they're having a good game, and sometimes things just work out for you. Like, that's a thing that can happen in fighting games. Sometimes your stock just goes away just because like you probably got outplayed like a couple of times, and maybe they made some good plays, but like we've all had those stocks where it feels like everything just goes right for you, right? Like, I don't need to further talk about that.
Doesn't really happen with me, but keep going.
Okay. Okay. Well, sorry. I guess
the stars fall into place. Yeah.
I mean, if people are confused about that, I can go on about it later. But I think what happens when you see like the crazy comebacks is usually how it goes is the person who's winning and is not supposed to win, so to speak, is suddenly like, oh god, I'm winning, and like panics. And this usually happens like, if you take the first stock, then most people are like, oh, whatever, anybody can take the first stock. But then if you have like a 2 or 3 stock lead against somebody who's considered a better player, you're like, oh, wait, what's happening? Like, this isn't supposed to be happening. So it could either be like, you panic, or you're like, oh god, like, what does this mean? Like, what do I do now? And then probably start getting like super self-conscious about everything you were doing that was winning you the match in the first place. And then the better player at this point is, kind of just realizing that they have to get in the zone. Whatever puts them there, that kind of varies between players. It could be like, whatever, I'm better than this guy, I can just do my thing. And then you just start concentrating more. You get kind of like more into your flow state. Or it could be like, I absolutely have to win this match no matter what. I mean, yeah, you say that, PJ, but the thing is, that happens all the time. Like, I really need to emphasize that. Like, getting nervous, beating somebody who's considered better than you, I see that so much. It happens all the time.
So I want to chime in on that, actually,
yeah,
on that note. I've been on both sides of that. I've seen that happen to my opponents, and I've been the one getting nervous playing a better player. And it's like the amount of times that you see someone quote unquote clutch out of stock. If they're the higher seeded player and they're just doing their thing, I personally have seen my opponent who's been playing amazing for 7 stocks in a row on that 8th stock, just
Crumble.
completely turn off their brain, right, and just like start F smashing randomly as a Marth player.
A
1
lot.
2
Did happen a lot.
repeatedly.
A lot. Yep.
Yeah, and it's so hard to adjust faster than your opponent, right? Like,
Mhm.
even if you're seeing the same situation multiple times, it's hard to know what they're like. People talk about, oh, they're starting to get a read on their tech habits now at like high level commentary. Sometimes, like, the first time I heard that phrase, I didn't really understand what they were talking about, right? But for those players in the moment, they're starting to see the same situations happen over and over, and they're seeing what level their opponent is on and how they're going to respond to it. Something that happened to me at a recent tournament was that actually Mafia would fair double jab my shield repeatedly for the first game. And it's like, for those of you that don't know, the Peach for Im data, fair double jab, if you just wait and shield, it's super punishable. Like, you can punish with whatever
Jabs
you want.
and jabs in general are pretty much super punishable in this game.
Yeah.
The
But
only
you have
exception, yeah,
But they're
the
really
only exception
fast.
is they're really fast. The exception is like synced Ice Climber's jab.
Yeah.
It's like -2 if you crouch cancel it or something.
Anyways, point is, if you read it and you hold shield, then they get bodied, right? So what happened was he got hit by it twice, and then rather I got hit by it once, and then I just started holding shield, and then I managed to punish him for it twice, and then I kept looking for it through the next game, and I got wrecked every time, right? So it's like you have to stay ahead of your opponent on the adaptation game, and that's like something that the quote unquote better player tends to have the edge in. So maybe that's why you see upsets not happen that frequently.
So
That-
there's a couple of things there. If nobody minds me like addressing that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so going back to the thing we were talking about earlier with playing at nationals, and like the idea of people on the West Coast like playing the player more, kind of that whole conversation. Another thing that's really significant about nationals, and I think something that isn't really emphasized in the kind of formats that we play here, like if you're going through, there's like 2,000 players at the tournament, and you're going through however many rounds of bracket, you need to keep it super, super simple. But like, for example, you said like the first game is data, but the way I see it is you need to be watching your opponent every second of every match. Like you need to be constantly like every single thing you do, and I think this is part of what makes Dr. Peepee so amazing, in particular, is he's like so deliberate and planned out and methodical in every little action, and even if you do something that doesn't really directly result in you hitting them, if you get data out of it, that's still a win. And this is something that Street Fighter players understand like so innately and at such a high level. But like it's an ongoing thing, and you kind of look at it like you're using your percent, like your stocks, like you're using situations as basically like a currency to gain information on your opponent. So kind of just seeing it as like not really okay, I didn't adapt that game. This game I'm gonna adapt. I'm sorry, my voice is annoying. I didn't adapt, but now I'm going to. It's like it has to be a constant going thing, because the opponent's going to be picking up on things too. And there's something else I wanted to mention there. I don't remember what it was. Oh yeah, we were talking about like tech habits. I just randomly wanted to shout out Drug Fox because he was talking to me about like the way he approaches like reaction tech chasing. And he would like be playing. I think the example he gave was Lucky, and he said if he felt himself starting to drop the tech chases, if he could tech chase off of a read and like do something that was in their pattern, then it kind of like helped him sync up again and start doing it. And I just remember being like I can't even imagine how much focus and painstaking attention to detail it requires to be able to do that on reaction in the first place. But to do that and then still understand like this player's habits and be able to like deduce a pattern out of it, like that's unbelievable to me. Like, I can't really do that even if I'm solely trying to just go for reads on tech chasing, which is something that I do sometimes. Like really picking out glaring habits that people have, that's really difficult for me. But that's basically, long story short, that's why I think Drugfox is a genius, and I have no doubt that he'll be like a god tier player within a year. But anyway.
Well, I heard a funny statistic actually today. He was the highest placing solo Falco main at Genesis 3, which is pretty crazy when you think about it.
Genesis 3 has some
highest placing solo Falco main.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a god. He's and like what he did is pretty unusual. I just want to put that out there. Like for somebody to switch characters, just go all in on a completely new character. We've seen like Armada, for example, pick up characters for like a really specific counter pick for a certain player. But for somebody to totally just suddenly take all their eggs out of their basket and put them in a different basket, and then do that is really pretty exceptional.
I agree. I also think what was almost also as amazing was how he stole victory from the jaws of defeat against Prince Abu, an exceptional Jigglypuff player.
He did clutch it out, but I was sad. I like when Abu wins because it's hilarious, like in every way possible.
So is every Jigglypuff player a giant troll? Is that just like a
I don't think Hungrybox is a
Jigglypuff?
troll on purpose.
Yes. My answer
What?
to that is yes.
Well, okay, wait, never
I
mind. His sunglasses
completely
thing was
disagree.
totally on purpose. I think a lot
Have
of
you
it.
seen him play against players worse than him? He just like full hop drills.
That was hilarious.
And it works.
That was only a fight pit in like pools.
Okay.
Ugh.
But you can't look at that with a straight face and say that's not trolling. And if anyone's ever heard Prince Abu talk, someone led him into the Peach R&D group, by the way. And it's like, I mean, it's interesting because he spices it up, but he's like, I can't believe he's not banned. That's just what I would say.
His trolling is like so far advanced as to be indistinguishable from his actual personality.
And like with it's true with Squibble, even though you're not a Jigglypuff main anymore. I think that was true for you as well.
I think that was interesting what you just said, Zoso, though, is that like it's become indistinguishable from his personality.
Yeah,
I
like
think-
you can't extricate the two. They're they're so
yeah.
tightly woven.
But I think that's like an interesting thing in Melee. Like if you decide you're going to be this kind of player, and then you just say things like it, like sarcastically or just like as a joke, I think you like slowly become that and start taking
Yes.
it seriously.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's like
It's
I
like
agree.
people who said bro ironically, and now they can't stop.
I just have to say, I can't think of a better example of that than Levin.
yeah,
I
because like,
really can't.
he was being a dick, right? Ironically, probably. And then he actually believed he was amazing, and then he like got super shut down when he lost to things.
Well, he is amazing. He is actually
Yeah.
really,
I
really
actually
amazing.
am kind of a Leffen Smashboard scholar, and since the beginning, pretty much he's just been like delusionally arrogant, and so I don't think that it has anything to do with him doing anything ironically. Because if you like see some of the stuff he says, like even when he like wasn't that good and Armada was the best player in the world, he was like trash talking Armada in like half of his Smashboards posts.
Yeah, I mean, he's just like, what's the word? There's a very specific word. He's, God damn it, this is gonna bother me. Whatever, go ahead. He is irreverent.
That word is
that is-
big.
that
You
is
should explain it to
He
the
has
viewers.
no respect for the perceived status quo of the Smash community.
Oh, that's a
Um,
good thing, though, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think like having it like a healthy level
As
and
long
kind
as
of,
everyone isn't like that, because then nothing would like ever happen.
I think you gotta have a little bit of an ego. You gotta like feel yourself to some extent. I mean, I like tried to avoid ever doing that for a long time, even though obviously I still did it sometimes because everybody does. But like, if you want to be really good, you gotta have confidence. You gotta think highly of yourself on some level, I think.
All right. On that note, we are just about out of time. Do you guys have any shout-outs this week?
Well, I'm going to shout outs to basically basically everyone at New Game Plus yesterday. Everyone who bought me stuff. That was cool. It's a great time. Best birthday ever. Thanks, everybody.
Happy birthday, Theo!
Yeah, happy
Hooray.
birthday, man.
Happy birthday! I had no idea it was your birthday. My bad.
That's all right. Yeah, you were the only
Maybe
one
that
there.
explains some of your antics
Yeah.
yesterday.
I don't know if people saw it. I'm just going to reiterate the shout out that I gave to Crush last night after I won the weekly at the Grid in Manchester, and the guy who runs the tournament wanted to interview me on stream, and he asked me who my biggest fan is, and I said he would never admit it, but it's Crush, and he wishes I was his biological father.
Actually, little known fact. I'm more of like a lefty fan, and then Zoso is kind of like a fan of me.
That's true. Yeah. We're each other's biggest fans. You know, it's kind of like the thing that me and Swift have, or like me and Scar. You know.
I can't say anything good about Scar, but
Well, you